Desi Arnaz kept the pen between his fingers, but he didn't lower it to the page. Across the table, a network lawyer slid the contract forward 1 inch, like a final offer. The studio audience was already seated behind the cameras, close enough to be witnesses. A guard at the door shifted his stance, blocking the only clear exit. A camera bulb popped somewhere in the back, then died. No one turned to see who had tried to capture it. Someone in the front row made a small sound, half a cough, half a warning. Then they swallowed it. A laugh tried to start, then died. Desi looked at the signature line once. Then he looked up, and the room realized he had stopped reading. The lawyer didn't blink. He only tapped the margin with one fingernail, soft, as if time belonged to him. Desi felt the audience behind the cameras lean forward by instinct. Even the crew stopped pretending to work. If Desi signed, the night would belong to them. If he didn't, it could end here, one way or the other. Tonight. Rewind, Los Angeles, 1953. Television was moving west, and so was the appetite for control. Studios spoke the language of opportunity, but they enforced it like ownership. Networks promised airtime, sponsors promised money, and hidden men promised order. Hollywood wasn't governed. It was managed, quietly, by people who never sat in the front row. They didn't need to threaten. They needed to schedule you. A handshake could lock a career in place. A clause could erase it without leaving a bruise. Here, a person could be famous and still be cornered. Because fame was useful, and usefulness was something others claimed. In this city, the building itself felt dangerous. Because the walls had heard everything and kept none of it safe. Desi understood contracts the way some men understand weather. Not by reading forecasts, by watching the sky change. He'd seen families lose everything without a fight. He'd seen power arrive as paperwork, not fists. In Cuba, titles shifted overnight. In America, titles shifted the same way, only cleaner. He learned early what a signature can become. Not agreement, permission. He also learned what happens when you refuse. Not immediately, quietly, later, when the door doesn't open. The first contact came as a friendly correction. A producer's assistant caught Desi before rehearsal and handed him a revised schedule. No explanation, just a note clipped to the top. New network standards. Mandatory. At the bottom was a single line, typed alone. Bring your contract to Studio B after the run-through. The assistant didn't wait for an answer. He walked away like the message was already accepted. Desi read it once, then separated the note from the schedule. He placed the note under an ashtray in his dressing room and left it there. He didn't tear it up. Tearing meant emotion. He wanted nothing to be readable. Later, a stagehand asked if Desi was going to Studio B. Desi answered, not today. The stagehand didn't nod. He just looked past Desi, as if counting who had heard the refusal. And that count felt like the real message. The second warning arrived in the hallway, disguised as advice. A man Desi hadn't met walked beside him, matching his pace without asking. You're doing well, the man said, voice low. You don't want misunderstandings at this level. Desi kept walking. The man kept talking. Standards change, he said. People get replaced. They passed a bulletin board where crew calls were posted. A name had been crossed out in red pencil. No explanation beside it. Under the board, a fresh thumbtack held a blank card, as if someone was reserving the next space. Behind them, 2 crew members slowed down, pretending to check cables. No one wanted to look like they were listening. Desi stopped at the sound booth door. What do they want? He asked. The man didn't smile. Just a signature, he said. And your silence after. Desi nodded once, like he had heard. Then he said, tell them I'll read it tomorrow. The man's eyes stayed on Desi's hands, as if tomorrow was not guaranteed. When Desi entered the booth, the man didn't follow. He didn't need to. The warning had already landed. After that, the studio grew careful. Not quieter, careful. Desi's dressing room phone rang at odd hours. When he answered, no one spoke. The line stayed open long enough to make the point. A new contract folder appeared on his chair. Not his. Someone else's name on the cover, crossed out in pencil. Inside the folder was a single page. Blank, except for a signature line. As if the content didn't matter, only the surrender. A second page sat behind it with fine print turned face down. The message was clear, the details were for later. A rehearsal tape vanished, then returned on his desk rewound to a single moment. A moment where Desi paused before speaking. Someone wanted him to hear his own hesitation. Someone wanted him to correct it. A stage manager stopped using Desi's name over the loudspeaker. He started saying, Mr. Arnaz, like distance could protect him. Crew members began to avoid standing between Desi and any doorway. As if doorways had sides now. One writer whispered, they're not asking. He didn't say who they were. The room already knew. A camera operator refused to meet Desi's eyes. Not disrespect, fear of being remembered. No one could prove anything, and that meant it could keep tightening. Nothing had ever been announced, but everyone understood what happened when the paperwork came back and signed. That evening, Desi's closest partner found him in the prop room. The lights were off, but someone had left the door ajar, as if to remind them of witnesses. "We can still step away," she said. Her voice stayed level. Her hands did not. Desi listened without moving. A prop microphone lay on the table between them like a joke. "They're pushing you into a corner with a pen," she said. "If you sign, they own the show. If you don't, they'll make it hurt." She didn't say how. That was the threat. Walking away was still possible. A new contract in a new city. A quieter life. She leaned in. "Say yes once," she said. "Then we leave on our terms." Desi shook his head. Not anger. Decision. He looked at the door left ajar, then at her, then back to the door. Her eyes tightened. "If you refuse again," she whispered, "this becomes public." Desi answered, "Good." And the room felt colder when he said it. The next day, the invitation came officially. A network runner delivered it with both hands, like a warrant. Special review. Studio C. Closed audience. Required attendance. Studio C was larger than it needed to be. Rows of seats filled with executives, sponsor men, and union observers. Not an audience. A jury. The lights were set too bright over the table and too dim over the seats. It made the witnesses feel anonymous, which was the point. Security stood at the doors, not facing outward, but inward, as if the threat was already inside. A clerk placed fresh legal pads on the table. One for Desi, two for them. A glass of water waited at Desi's place, already sweating. No one had asked what he wanted. Desi walked down the aisle. People watched, then pretended they hadn't. A sponsor's representative adjusted his tie twice, then stopped, as if even nervousness could be used against him. At the front, a long table waited beneath harsh lights. 2 chairs on one side, 1 chair on the other. On the far side sat a man Desi had only heard about. He didn't wear a badge. He didn't need one. Beside him sat the network lawyer, already holding a pen. Behind them stood an assistant with a briefcase, still as furniture. The man didn't greet Desi. He simply opened a folder and waited. And waiting felt like the first act of control. The man didn't speak. He placed the contract on the table and pushed it forward with 2 fingers. Then he set something beside it. A fountain pen, uncapped, ink ready. The room noticed the pen before Desi did. Like a signal flare on white paper. Behind the table, the network attorney stopped shuffling pages. A sponsor leaned back, suddenly still. In the seats, a union observer turned his head away, pretending to study the lights. He didn't want to be seen watching the signature line. The air conditioning hummed, then seemed to thin out. Silence took the top of the room. The man tapped the signature line once with the pen tip. Not hard, just enough. A guard at the door shifted again, closing the angle to the exit. Not dramatic, practical. Desi's partner in the second row lowered her eyes. Not from fear, so no one could read her face. Desi didn't reach for the pen. He let it sit there, open, waiting, like a threat that couldn't be taken back. And the witnesses realized they were being asked to watch a takeover. Desi acted first. He slid the contract back toward the man, but not as a refusal. He turned it sideways and held it up, visible to the first 3 rows. He didn't read the clauses. He pointed to a blank space in the margin, then to the witnesses. "Add it," he said, calm. "Add the names of everyone in this room." A quiet ripple passed through the seats. Not outrage. Calculation. The attorney's pen hovered. Stop. One executive cleared his throat, then thought better of it. The sound died halfway out. Desi set the contract down again, still turned for the audience to see. Then he placed his own rehearsal script on top of it, open, as if to compare truths. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't plead. He held the pressure in place by making it visible. He made the hidden men share responsibility with the room. He offered a signature, only if the demand agreed to become a record. And a record was the one thing power avoided. Silence stretched until it felt heavy enough to touch. The man across from Desi stared at the script, then at the contract beneath it. His eyes moved like someone counting exits. In the 3rd row, a sponsor's assistant started to stand. A hand pulled her back down by the sleeve. The attorney looked at the executives. The executives looked at the man without the badge. No one wanted to be first to speak. First to speak meant owning the pressure. Desi didn't move. His stillness forced everyone else to own their movement. The pen remained uncapped, ink drying by the second. A countdown without numbers. The man's fingers reached toward it, paused, then withdrew. A single beat passed where the room didn't breathe, as if breath could decide it. For a moment, the witnesses didn't know which way it would tip, and that uncertainty felt like the most dangerous thing of all. The man leaned back. He capped the pen with a quiet click. He didn't smile. He didn't apologize. He simply slid the contract into the folder as if it had never mattered. Then he pushed the folder toward Desi. Not an offer, a return. Desi didn't take it right away. He let it sit there, in front of everyone, like a power that had been forced to blink. When he finally touched it, he didn't open it. He closed it tighter and set it down. The attorney gathered his papers too quickly. He didn't like how public this had become. A folder edge trembled once in his grip, then went still. The man stood, adjusted his cuff, nodded once, small enough to deny later. Security stepped away from the doors. Not because they were told, because the room told them. Violence never arrived, but the threat dissolved without mercy or apology, and the witnesses understood why. By the weekend, the story had already changed shape. Some said Desi tore the contract in half. Others said he signed it and then destroyed the studio with the terms. A few insisted he never touched it, that he made the lawyer's hand shake, that he made the hidden man blink first. No one agreed on the details. They agreed on the sensation. A room full of watchers. A pen waiting like a trap, and Desi refusing to let it stay private. Crew members told it in whispers at diners. They lowered their voices even when no one was near, because the wrong person hearing it was the whole point of the story. Executives denied it with smiles that arrived too late. They called it a misunderstanding, which was how Hollywood buried truth. A union man told it like a cautionary tale. A sponsor man told it like a rumor he wished wasn't true. Each retelling ended the same way, with a pause. With the sense that something had shifted, with the feeling that the room itself had learned a new rule, because the truth was simple enough to survive. He didn't win with force. He won by making them watch themselves. This moment mattered because it changed what could be demanded quietly. Desi Arnaz built a career in a system that preferred compliance. He didn't destroy the system. He made it careful. He understood the hidden rule of old Hollywood. Power hates witnesses. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He didn't ask for sympathy. He only moved the pressure into the light and held it there. After that, contracts came with softer hands. Meetings came with more people in the room. Silence stopped feeling safe. Even when doors closed, someone always left a chair empty. For the witness they now feared they might need. And people who had been trained to look away learned something else. Stillness can be leverage. Desi Arnaz didn't sign to survive. He made them hesitate to own him. Final.